Nervous, man. It's been a hot minute.
And on that note, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Pop Punk Podcast with me, T Will Official, and my G-ass co-host, Mr. Daddy Mush. Say what's up, Mr. Daddy Mush.
What's up, everyone? It's great to be back. I'm happy to be back doing this, and 15 episodes. How about that?
Yeah, 15 episodes. And we're coming back after a little 2-week hiatus, which I actually wanted to say I do have a few things I want to address before we get into the actual topic of the episode. First things first. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, nothing's really changed. But we're doing a little bit of a format change. We are no longer going to be streaming it live to Twitch because the Twitch thing was kind of really just more of an afterthought. It's really always been more of a YouTube thing, and I just figure it just kind of cuts out the middleman because now we don't have to worry about the 48-hour rule. Like, we're actually recording this on Monday to upload tomorrow, so it just makes things easier on us. So yeah, so no more stream on Twitch, but there's really nothing much different. Like, if you've been watching it on YouTube, literally nothing's gonna change. So that's number one. Number two, I just want to say real quick, rest in peace to the homie Sean Connery. Anybody that knows me knows I fucks with James Bond pretty heavy. So I was definitely pretty sad to hear the news. I just wanted to throw a little quick blurb about that into today's episode.
Yes, Mr.
And
Connery was a good actor.
yes, he was. And yeah, and then number three, just want to address. Yeah, I know it's been a couple weeks. I'll be completely transparent with you guys. There's two main reasons why we haven't done it the past couple weeks. Number one, our schedules were kind of both fluctuating a little bit those 2 weeks, and it was kind of hard to find a time to sit down and do the podcast. Number two, it's just honestly pretty tough to come up with weekly content for a podcast about a music genre where stuff doesn't happen every week. So we took like a little 2-week break to kind of refresh the batteries, and we're back at it today. And yeah, and I think that's all the things that I just wanted to address real quick. So with that out of the way, I think we could just kind of hop right into it. So first things first, you already know, 15 episodes in, nothing's changing. What have you been listening to this week, sir?
Uh, well, a lot of it has been more of the same, but a new band, I guess new to the podcast I've been listening to, but known for quite a few weeks that I've been listening to these guys quite heavy. I have been listening to and enjoying these hearts quite a bit.
These
Like
hearts.
a lot.
I
Been listening to them a lot.
I've been listening to them to a little bit.
In particular, their last album, Yours to Take, which came out in 2013, where it's more of a good mix album. They actually blended the ingredients together instead of just eating an egg and a bag of flour and say they made cookies.
Yeah, and explain to the podcast what you mean when you say that.
Well, as you previously stated about the song Apology Rejected by Them, their album Forever Ended Yesterday, a lot of it is just like as you stated before, me and you talked many times, it's technically easy core, but it's like really weird because one, you go straight from like pop punk neon-y to straight up just like metalcore, hardcore, and it's just but they don't really blend. It's just a pop punk song to a random screaming breakdown. And it's like saying you're eating cookies, but you really just ate a raw egg and a bunch of sugar and mixed it in your stomach.
Exactly. Yes, I that's 100%. And it's still, I mean, the first album's still solid enough, but yeah, no, the second album is where they actually baked the cake. They baked the cookies. They put it together, and the second album's where they really where they became amazing, in my opinion.
And unfortunately, it was a little too late, and they broke up.
Well, yeah, it
I
was 2013.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I mean, Just sounds like if you love Chunk No Captain Chunk, this is just more of that essentially. I mean, the opening track on the Yours to Take album does feature Burt song from Chunk No Captain Chunk, so that's what I've been listening to a lot lately. And, more of the same. Speaking of Chunk No Captain Chunk, they're also in my recently played to as well.
Very
And I've
nice.
been listening to, just a standard, typical, what I usually do, Newfound, Rufio, Old Saves a Day. Really about that. But yourself?
Very nice. So yeah, I've been kind of, as you know, I was on a bit of a heavy kick for a little bit. I've been kind of waning down from that a little bit. Although, if you clicked on the video, you know today's episode's still about metalcore and heavy music, which, as I stated before, it's a little tough to come up with weekly content for the podcast. So even though I came up with the idea when I was still like a couple weeks ago and I was still on a really like metalcore heavy kick, we're still rolling with it because it's a podcast episode. It's an idea, so we're rolling with it. But I have been kind of coming down a little bit from that heavy kick. I've been kind of just back onto like lately. I've been making, as I said, I make like 60-song playlists like every couple days, and I just kind of like listen to them start to finish. But a lot of the same stuff. Like I've been listening to MGK, his newest album. I've been listening to a lot of a band called A Place in Time. In particular, I like their songs. It's on like Donkey Kong and You Know the Type. I've been listening to a lot of Less Than Jake's new song.
How is that?
It's just pretty much standard Less Than Jake. It's pop punk with horns, which I enjoy. As I said before, that's pretty much why I like them better than the average ska band, is because they don't really sound like ska to me. They kind of sound more like pop punk with horns, which I feel like a lot of angry ska fans are gonna be roasting me for that one. But that's how I feel about Less Than Jake, and that's why I think I like them better than the average ska band.
Ska purists don't really like that comment you made there.
Yeah, I know. I know. Fucking that comment section, I'm about to get blasted. And yeah, and then as the staple of the stream, I'm going to go through my top 5 on repeat this week. And it's Been Through Hell by These Hearts, Just a Little More Time by Mono Eyes, Carry On by Better Luck Next Time, Roll Up by Wiz Khalifa, because I've been listening to that song a lot too. It's on like Donkey Kong by A Place in Time, and then if we're rounding it out to a top 7, then there's You're Cute When You Scream by Senses Fail and Lie to Me by Less Than Jake. So it's actually pretty accurate this time around, because I remember before like it would kind of take a little bit to update. So like my like on repeat was all the songs I was listening to like the week before, but that's actually pretty accurate. That's like all songs I've been listening to this week.
Very nice. And speaking of Census Fail, I mean, I haven't listened to it yet because I just found out about it yesterday, but they actually did a split with Saves a Day and it dropped October 30th. But here's the catch, though. It's just they're just covering Misfits songs.
I mean, I'll still take a listen. Well, yeah, I definitely would have been a lot more excited if they were doing original songs, or even if they were covering each other's songs.
Well, I always like when bands cover each other. That's really cool because I do enjoy the name of the split they did. It's called Through Being Ghoul.
I like that. You know what? That does make sense because you said it dropped October 30th, so it's probably like Halloween themed. Like Misfits, they're a quote unquote horror punk band.
Yes.
So I mean, it fits.
I mean, I just think it's a clever little title.
I definitely like the title. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm sure it's on Spotify. If it's not, I'll probably have to peep it on YouTube. I'm not really well versed in Misfits because I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna get more angry comments for this one. But I'm really not that well versed in like actual punk music. But I'll still give it a listen just because I like Senses Fail and I like Saves the Day.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll definitely check it out. I mean, since you brought up Senses Fail, I had to throw a little bit more of a current event in there just to kind of let the people know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you did. I got something new to check out now.
Yeah.
Boy, I guess that wraps up that part of the segment. So I guess we can hop into the main meat of today's episode. We're doing a whole episode on metalcore because, like I said, I definitely don't know enough about it to do a whole podcast. But I do enjoy the genre enough that I wanted to dedicate an episode of the podcast to metalcore, and I feel like it's still, even though it's clearly not pop punk, it's actually very different from pop punk, and I will never understand why. But for some reason, it is actually relevant because metalcore and pop punk has always been kind of in similar scenes. I'm not quite sure why, but that's how I'm relating that to pop punk. How it gets its own specific episode of the podcast. It's good. This one's just gonna be kind of an episode. I'm gonna be talking about my favorite metalcore bands. I remember Ed said that he listened to a few of the bands I sent him, and we're gonna be getting his thoughts on those songs. Ed's gonna be talking about the bands that he likes because I know he's not quite as into the metalcore as I am. For me, I'd actually consider it probably my third favorite genre. Obviously, number one, you just need to look at the name of the podcast. And number two would probably be post-hardcore because it's just such a broad genre. It covers everything from basically pop punk to songs that are basically metalcore. And then
Yeah,
actual metalcore, probably that would round out my top three favorite genres. And even though I don't listen to it quite as much as the other two, sometimes I just go on these heavy kicks where I just listen to nothing but As I Lay Dying and Kill Switch Engage, which is what happened a couple weeks ago, which is what prompted me to want to do an episode dedicated to metalcore. And I know a lot of people that love pop punk also really like metalcore, so I figured you guys might still like this episode. If you're a pop punk purist, I apologize. We'll be back talking about pop punk again next week. So, first off, I'm going to talk about my favorite metalcore band real quick, and then Ed, I'll obviously have you chime in. A band that I've talked about actually many times on the podcast before, Atreyu. And the thing I think I like about Atreyu is they're kind of not really metalcore, at least on their first three albums. They're really more as I said before, they're mall emo, just with more screaming and the occasional breakdown. And that's the fact that they do the screamed verses, clean choruses is kind of what I think, and the occasional breakdown is just what I think lumps them into the metalcore category. But I've always seen them more in the same league as Census Fail or Hawthorne Heights or any of those bands. And
yeah,
and Ed, I remember you saying that you kind of agree with that.
yeah. Well, I mean, the just the general vibe of the music, it doesn't sound out of place on an early Census Fail out. Like Atreyu, how I always described them, it seems like they were a blend of Let It Enfold You, Census Fail, and the metalcore era Census Fail they did when they had those two albums, like
Yeah,
a
which
Renancer and Pull the Horns, pull the Thorns from Your Heart. It sounds like a blend of those two eras of Census Fail with Atreyu.
yeah, and I still have to listen to Census Fail's metalcore era because I think I make fun of it because it's the song that I heard was really ridiculous, but I've really only heard one song, so I mean I can't let that define a whole era of Census Fail's music because all their other stuff I actually really do enjoy them. They're actually one of my favorite, if not my favorite, post-hardcore band. Well, it's them or Escape the Fate. But with Escape the Fate, I only really enjoy the first two albums. But with Census Fail, I enjoy their entire catalog. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it is pretty good, and I just listened to a bad song.
I mean it's all right. I mean it's definitely obviously speaking, it's definitely my least favorite era Census Fail. I kind of consider them kind of just decided that they're no longer for me until if there is a light, it will find you. I'm like, okay, they're back,
Oh yeah,
and
their
yeah,
2018 album that's just pure pop punk. It's not
that's
even
great.
post-hardcore. It's just pure pop punk, and I enjoy it a lot. I don't know if it's better than Let It Enfold You, but it's definitely got to be top three for me for their
Yeah.
albums.
First of all, just speaking of Census Fail's Renaissance album or Renaissance, or whatever you pronounce it, I enjoy the genres they have there. They have melodic hardcore, metalcore, and my personal favorite, sludge metal.
Dude, I love the friggin' different names that they have for metal bands. Like there's sludge metal, doom metal, drone metal.
Yeah,
It's
I
so ridiculous, and it's like all
noise rock.
oh god, yeah, crust punk.
Crust punk's just disgusting looking.
That just sounds like something I think I wouldn't enjoy. No
I mean, it's
offense.
called.
If there's any people to watch this podcast that are fans of crust punk, like what you like. That's cool. I just it's sounds like pineapple on pizza to me. Like I technically never had it, so I guess I can't really say if I like it or not. But I just can't imagine that tastes good. Yeah, we're getting controversial today on the podcast.
Oh well, it's when you haven't made waves in a couple of weeks, you gotta come out with a bang to get the people talking again. That's how the show business works, baby.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been dormant for 2 weeks. Yeah, it was about time we said something.
Yeah, it's like work a volcano.
But yeah, so to get back on topic, so Atreyu's definitely got to be my favorite. If you count them, for a while, I kind of didn't even really count them because I would always say that my favorite metalcore band was As I Lay Dying because I just never really saw Atreyu like in the same kind of like light as the others. But since they are technically metalcore, that's what their Wikipedia page lists them as. Um, that makes them my favorite. Except I will say, after album 3, they're very hit or miss for me. Album 4, they tried to do like a whole like rock thing, and they actually have a very hilarious attempt at new metal on the song "Becoming the Bull." But I do enjoy this. I do enjoy a couple songs off that album. The song "Doomsday" is pretty good, and I do enjoy the song "Falling Down." But for the most part, yeah, that album's kind of like eh. And then album 5, Congregation of the Damned, I thought it was pretty solid. It definitely has its good songs, but it also kind of has its songs. Their lead vocalist, Alex, who is no longer in the band, he tried to do like a raspier, like almost like Avenged Sevenfold thing with his voice on the album that I didn't really like. But the songs that were like heavier, that actually just had him screaming instead, I thought were pretty good. And then album 6, like after they came back, was just pure metalcore. So that one I would definitely say is just pure metalcore. At least the songs I heard. I don't think I've heard every song off that album, but the songs that I've heard is just pure. Like it doesn't have that kind of like more emo-y flavor to it. So I mean, I enjoy it, but I definitely don't enjoy it as much as their first 3 albums. And then album 7 is just unfortunately it's just kind of John Feldman like rock. I'm not really a fan of their album 7. And I'm actually a little upset because their newest song that they put out that doesn't have Alex on it, it's just Brandon, their drummer, who did all like the cleans on their first couple albums. He's just stepped up as their lead vocalist, and instead of replacing the singer, they replaced him on the drums. And their bass player is stepping up and doing the screams now, which actually I really like because I actually think he's probably a better screamer than Alex. No offense, Alex, if you're listening. So like when I found out he was taking all like the screaming duties, I thought that was actually really cool. The only problem is just the sound of the music is still kind of that like album 7 like John Feldman rock sound. Kind of has me upset. I've said it before on the podcast, so I'm not going to go too into detail with it. But I've said before, I know they didn't want to replace Alex as their singer. They'd rather replace Brandon because Brandon's still in the band, just not on the drums. But I definitely think when he left, they should have replaced him with like a emo post-hardcore singer, and they should have just doubled down on that. In my opinion, obviously, I don't know if that would have been successful because it is 2020, but that's what I would have liked to hear at least.
Yes, for the sake of art.
For the sake of art. But yeah, I mean, if it's working out for him, then it's working out for him. More power to him. I'm just telling you what I would have liked to hear because my favorite thing about Atreyu, as I've said many, many times, is even though they get lumped in with the metalcore bands, they really were kind of their own thing and they were unique. And sure, they had some ridiculous songs like The Crimson, although I will say that that's probably my favorite song by them. But their lyrics are very ridiculous. It's about vampires.
And I like
Um,
that though.
but it's the good kind of ridiculous, like the Jason X kind of ridiculous. The kind of ridiculous that I love, and not the kind of ridiculous I'm just like, what the hell is this?
Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm not going to go too into detail on Atreyu because we've talked about him many, many times on the podcast before. So yeah, so then I guess my next favorite would be, like I said, As I Lay Dying. With them in particular, they didn't really do a whole lot that set them apart from the other metalcore bands, but just what they just do really fucking well. Like, Tim, their lead vocalist, is just an incredible fucking screamer. Their music is just fucking, like, amazing. Like, I don't know, they're like the defining band. Like, when I think of metalcore, I think of that, like, As I Lay Dying sound. Like, they got the metal side covered because some of their riffs sound like straight up, like, like fucking like thrash metal riffs. But they also got like the hardcore intact. Like, they got the screaming, they got the breakdowns, they got all that stuff. They got the crazy fucking drums. Their drummer is actually incredibly fucking good.
And Mr. Jordan Mancino.
Yeah, and just, dude, like, every song they put out, like, I don't think. I mean, obviously, I don't think I've heard every single song they put out, but the songs that I have heard, I don't think I've heard a single song that I dislike by those guys. They just have such an incredible sound. Like, you can make the argument that it is a little generic, because, like I said, they don't really do anything to set them apart from the other bands. But they're just incredibly good at what they do.
It's like they set the pathway of what's considered cliche or the norm, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so to
They
speak.
perfected it, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Oh, and I probably should have said this when we started the podcast, but I forgot to. So now you're getting it 22 minutes in. So when we're talking about metalcore today, I just want to clarify. I'm talking about like the 2000s era metalcore. I'm not one of those like old heads that says, "Oh, this new shit sucks." I haven't really heard the new shit, but I do know that the newer metalcore is actually a lot different in sound than the older metalcore, and I'm just not very familiar with it. So we're just talking about the 2000s stuff because that's what I am familiar with. So I remember I did hear like an Architects song, which apparently set the blueprint for like modern metalcore. But it wasn't terrible, but I just don't really know the newer stuff all that much. So we're just talking about like the stuff that I am familiar with. So like, all the bands from the early, mid, late 2000s. Maybe some 2010 stuff, but I don't think any of the bands I'll be talking about today are bands that started in the 2010s. Just have albums in the 2010s.
By the way, have you listened to the new As I Lay Dying album? It was their first one since the Tim.
I heard the single that they put out like before the album, "Dig My Own Grave," and I did think that song was really solid. I think they put out another single before the album dropped, but I didn't. I think I did hear it, but I only heard the second single once. So I don't really remember the second single too much, but "Dig My Own Grave" is cool. I like that they got the whole band back because I remember when Tim went to prison, which that's something I'm going to talk about today, because I remember, for those that don't know, Tim Lambesis, their lead singer, was the reason they haven't had an album in 7 years is because he went to prison. He was trying to hire a hitman to murder his wife, and the hitman turned out to be like a private investigator. So they arrested him, and he was in jail for, I think, like a couple years. I think he got out on, I forget if he got out on bail or on good behavior, but he got out earlier than he was supposed to. And I'm glad that they got the band back, because I remember like the entire band left when he got sent to prison, which, I mean, like, I guess I don't blame him, because if you hire a hitman to murder your wife, they'd probably be afraid to be around him. But
yeah,
I mean, hey, if he did his time, if he's different now, if he just wants to get back to music and they respect that, cool. That makes me happy because I love As I Lay Dying.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, I don't want to be, like, a PR thing for me, I'd be more just kind of scared to be around him.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if
Yeah,
I, like,
like
smoked dirt on his carpet, next thing you know, I'm getting the hitman on me.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, hey, like obviously, I don't know Tim Lambesis personally, so I don't know. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he's a different person now. But but yeah, so that's just a little rundown on why like why they haven't had an album in 7 years. But they're back, and as far as I know, the whole band's back. At the very least, I know him, Jordan Mancino, their drummer, and Nick Hippa. If I pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry. If you're listening, I don't know, but if you are and I pronounce your name wrong, just let me know the right way to say it in the comments. I think it's Hippa, but I'm not sure. Who is their bassist and their clean vocalist, who is also really fucking good. Like I think their clean vocals is like amazing. Cause that's actually probably my favorite thing about the genre are like the choruses. Cause they're always so like melodic and they just sound very good. Like
Yeah,
cause
they have a great thing.
usually Tim like that's the part where like they stop screaming for a minute and they start singing. And it always sounds really good. At least to my ears.
And they're generally pretty big feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, speaking of, I guess, metalcore music, I think Mr. Lambias's, magnum opus is his side project, Austrian Death Machine.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring that up today, but I definitely forgot to. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So yeah, for those that don't know, yeah, Tim Lambesis has a this is still metalcore side project called Austrian Death Machine, and it's all songs about Arnold Schwarzenegger or Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. My personal favorite by them is "Get to the Chopper," which is about obviously Dutch from Predator, and he's got plenty of songs that are like just the names of the songs are like Terminator quotes, and just like all his movies really. And I mean, it's actually like good music too. Like it's genuinely pretty good music, but it's just great because like he'll have a guy do like an Arnold impersonation on the song. So it'll be like a sick breakdown. Then you'll hear some guy going like, "Yeah!"
Oh god, I gotta love it.
It's amazing. But yeah, I remember. So when Terminator came out for Mortal Kombat 11, I definitely was listening to a lot of Austrian Death Machine because dude, metalcore and like Mortal Kombat just kind of go hand in hand. It's just like heavy music and like any type of game like that just go hand in hand. So I was listening to a lot of like Austrian Death Machine while I was ripping people apart with the Terminator.
I mean, it just makes sense. I love love how they used, also, like, all his movie quotes, just not, the big ones, like, they even use Batman and Robin quotes as song titles.
Everybody chill.
Yeah, the one song's called "Allow Me to Break the Ice." Oh god.
I think they actually do have a song called "I'll Be Back" on their newest album.
Yeah, Triple Brutal.
Yeah, because they have
Yeah,
Total
track
Brutal
2.
and then Double Brutal, which is I think actually a double album.
Yeah, it had, like, a lot of covers on
Yeah,
disc
because I
2.
know disc one was like basically the second album, and disc two was a whole bunch of covers,
Mhm.
which was like like metalcore covers of like I think old like thrash songs. Like I know they did like "Trapped Under Ice" by Metallica. I'm pretty sure they did a Motorhead song, and it's just a whole bunch of like '80s metal, but like done
Yeah,
in like metalcore,
yeah,
which is
Judas
actually pretty
Priest,
cool because
Motorhead,
I
Thinking Death.
As I Lay Dying's done a few covers too, and those covers are pretty cool. I really like their cover of Electric Eye, and I really, really like their cover of War Ensemble by Slayer, which is funny because I don't really like thrash metal all that much. But like he turned it into metalcore, and it sounds pretty good, I think. But yeah, so yeah, and then they had after I'm pretty sure Triple Brutal's kind of recent, right? Like that's like 2018, 2019.
No, Triple Brutal is actually 2014, that's their last release.
Huh. Well, I'll admit I haven't really been keeping up to date with Austrian Death Machine. All I remember is when I was getting back into them when the Terminator came out for Mortal Kombat. I saw that they had a third album because when I first was like really listening to them, they only had the two albums. So I knew that they put out a third album at some point when I wasn't listening to them. So so that's I guess that's all I really needed to say about As I Lay Dying. Unless you had anything you wanted to add.
I was just saying how I like how they have a song called "One More Rep," which is a tribute to his movie Pumpin' Iron.
I actually really enjoy that song. I think it's a pretty solid song. And that actually does remind me because I remember you called like stuff like As I Lay Dying and Pantera and stuff like you call that like bodybuilder metal.
Oh, dude, everybody who I know works out. They either have like a tap out like UFC shirt, and they love As They Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage, and they love all that metalcore stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because yeah, like all my friends that were like obsessed with the gym and were like on the football team and shit, like As I Lay Dying was like their favorite bands, like all of them.
Yeah, it's like I remember we used to call them like all the kids who like bodybuild and like did creatine. All they did was listening to As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage. But how did you get into metalcore anyway?
Uh, Actually, I was gonna tell you about that because that actually is a perfect segue into the next band I was gonna talk about. And it might come as a shock to some people, but if you're into the scene, then you know. Because the next band I want to talk about is Avenged Sevenfold, and that's actually how I got into metalcore. Was for those that don't know, their first two albums, their first two albums were just like pretty much straightforward metalcore. Um,
Yeah,
and they were the first real metalcore band that I had listened to. I remember when I was like 10, I think I saw like one of their shirts just like at Hot Topic or something, and like I liked the skull because I was 10, so I bought it, and then I saw like just one of their CDs on sale at like Best Buy or something. It was Waking the Fallen, so I picked it up and I listened to it, and I was like, "Yo, this is actually pretty solid." Like I liked it. I wasn't 10 at the time. I think I was a little bit older. I was like 12. But I really fucking liked it. Um and yeah, and then after that I kind of started getting a little bit deeper into the genre, and that's when I found like, like All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, Atreyu. I didn't get into As I Lay Dying until a little bit later. But yeah, so pretty much yeah, Avenged Sevenfold is kind of like responsible for me liking metalcore, which is weird because like their more recent stuff they sound more like Metallica or something. But
they're definitely more.
their first two albums were actually really good fucking metalcore. Their first album is like really like different. Like their first album is just like straight up metalcore, and it's probably my least favorite of the two. My favorite Avenged Sevenfold album is definitely Waking the Fallen. There's definitely there's like traces of the sound that they were going to go to on their next album in there, but it was still metalcore. Like Chapter 4 and Reminiscence are two of like my favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs. Reminiscence might even be my favorite.
Yeah, Chapter 4 was in a lot of video games. That's how I first heard of them.
Yeah. And yeah, and then Reminiscence I just heard just because, like I said, I had the album. And Reminiscence was my favorite. Their first album, I remember, weirdly has like a skate punk song on it. Like they sound like Bad Religion or something. The song's called Streets. And I actually really do like that song too. Which is weird because I'm not super into like Bad Religion, and the song definitely does sound like Bad Religion. But their song Streets is pretty good. And it's just a random like punk song in the middle of all this like metalcore. But so their first two albums are pretty good. I like some of their later stuff too. I like everything with the Rev, who is now unfortunately no longer with us. May he rest in peace. He was another drummer that I thought was incredible. After the Rev died, I think their stuff has been kind of hit or miss. Like I'm not a fan of Hail to the King. I'll be honest. I'm sorry. I haven't really listened to their. I know they put out another album after Hail to the King called The Stage, and I heard the title track on it. It was in Rock Band. But I don't think I've heard any of the rest. So like after the Rev died, they got a little hit or miss for me. But I do like some of their metal stuff. Pretty much everything with the Rev on it is good. But after it, they kind of, like I said, they're a little hit or miss. I wouldn't say they fell off, but they're definitely hit or miss.
Oh, well, how about this just for a little fun fact? Because I'm just looking them up. On their first album, Sinister Gates was only a session musician.
Yeah, yeah, he didn't actually join the band until album two. I don't even think he was on album one. Just what they did was when they re-released Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, he re-recorded the intro track and put like guitar to it, I think. And that's
Backing
his
vocals too.
only real contribution on the album, I think. But yeah, no, he wasn't really on their first album. He didn't come in until album two.
Hmm.
And you can actually kind of tell because like I said, album one is pretty I guess generic metalcore, and then album two is where they really kind of started to bring in their sound a little bit, but
And more metal.
yeah, like a more metalcore version of their sound. Yeah, album two I actually think is really good. Album two is probably one of my favorite releases in the genre, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, because it was pure like metalcore. And it was like definitely more in the scene because they were on Hopeless Records at the time of that release, and they just
Yeah.
went
Oh,
straight
dude.
up to
And
evil.
I don't know if you've ever seen the picture on like the inside of the fucking album notes.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at it
Oh,
right now.
I
It's
know,
beautiful.
dude. It was 2003, and you could fucking tell.
I love when I believe that's Mr. Shadows with the black painted nail with his hand reaching out towards you with the open eyeliner.
Oh, I know. I love it.
I tell you, man, if it was 2003 or 2004, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'd probably be rocking that look.
Dude, I want to rock that look today. What you mean?
Well, I
Yeah, and I remember it was always very goofy to me because like you got like M Shadows buff as hell, rocking the guy liner and the black nails.
oh I know, and I love the studded belts too.
I fucking love it. And that's another just to go back to As I Lay Dying real quick. Like that's kind of funny to me because I remember Tim Lambesis did that whole like emo kid looking thing too. He used to be really scrawny, but then he got like fucking buff, and then he stopped the whole emo thing, and he just looked like a straight up bodybuilder.
They started doing steroids and everything.
I don't know if he did steroids or if he just started hitting the gym like crazy,
I looked
but
it up.
he
It was withdrawing from steroids. It said
oh okay
prison.
then okay, then you have it here live, folks. Well, I guess not really live. Amylin Beasts did do steroids. I remember my favorite comment. I was listening to their song "A Greater Foundation" on YouTube. I think the comments have since been disabled. They did that with all Lost Prophets songs too. I can kind of understand why, because Tim Lambesis went to jail, so probably like a bunch of the comments would be about like him going to jail. But before they disabled the comments, dude, I remember I saw a comment that had me dying laughing. Because the Greater Foundation was 2012, after he was like all into bodybuilding and shit. And the comment was, "As I lay on the bench press."
Uh,
I fucking love it. But
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
so go ahead.
speaking of A7X, before we I guess move on from them or anything, I
Oh yeah, no,
just
I definitely wanted to bring it back to them real quick because I wasn't done talking about them.
well, I was gonna say I just love their stage.
I know. You got M Shadows, does it Sinister Gates,
Zach,
Zacky Vengeance, which is probably my
Christ,
favorite.
like Johnny Christ.
Yeah, and I
And of
think the
course,
Rev stage name is like short for something.
yeah,
It's
let me see.
short for something wild. Look that up real quick.
Oh yeah, shortened version of the Reverend Tholomew Plague.
Yeah, so those stage names are pretty wild, and I am modeling my stage names after that. I'm gonna be T Anger.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing again. You can't compete with like Danny Doom and everything with that
Oh
one
my
band.
god, yeah, Danny Doom. What was the other ones? I remember Danny Doom. It
What's the name of that band again?
was like Design the Skyline.
Yes, that's it.
Oh
Hold
man,
up.
they were doing everything right, dude. I don't know what happened.
Here we go. We have Danny Doom, Julian Reckless. Uh, they have a whole bunch of other dudes' names. I
Yeah,
have to look at
no,
that video.
my stage name's gonna be T Bad Day.
I'll be Ed. Ed Execute.
Ed Execute. Ed Extermination.
That's more baller.
But yeah, like you know, light roasting aside, I do it out of love because, like I said, I do legitimately really enjoy their like early stuff. Light roasting aside, their first two albums are pretty fucking good. If you're into metalcore and you didn't know that they did that stuff before, like Beast and the Harlot and like Almost Easy and songs like that, um, check it out because it's if you're into metalcore, it's like actually really fucking good. The songs are still long as shit. Like Reminiscence is like a 6.5 minute long song. But if you can get past that, there's some good fucking stuff on that on both of those albums. Like I said, my personal favorite is Reminiscence, but that there's a whole bunch. Like there's that Chapter 4, And All Things Will End, Eternal Rest, Second Heartbeat. Like they're all bangers. That would probably be my top three metalcore bands. It would be Atreyu, As I Lay Dying, and then Avenged Sevenfold. But
Yep.
there's still a few more that I definitely wanted to talk about. Then I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on the songs that you listened to by those bands. But next up, I definitely wanted to talk about All That Remains a little bit. All That Remains is actually probably one of the more nostalgic ones for me because I was listening to them a lot in like 2008, 2009 when their Overcome album came out. And I remember my first exposure to them was they had a track pack in Rock Band. And it had This Calling, 2 Weeks, and Chiron. And I remember I actually did eventually FC Chiron on Expert. For those that don't know, in Rock Band, FC is when you 100% the song, you hit every note, and you don't strum when you're not supposed to because that breaks your combo. Because FC stands for full combo. It means you kept the 4 times multiplier from the beginning until the end. I'm a huge Rock Band nerd. But anyway, I did eventually FC Chiron. But yeah, and I remember that was my first foray into All That Remains, and I just got heavy into them. The Fall Ideal albums is still probably like another one of my favorite albums in the genre. My favorite song by them, I would have to think for a minute. It's probably Not Alone, because Not Alone's a really good song. Or no, my favorite is actually a song that kind of came a little bit later, a song called For We Are Many. And it's kind of funny because For We Are Many has no clean vocals whatsoever. Which my favorite part about All That Remains is I think their vocalist, and he actually does both, the screams and the singing. But their vocalist, I actually really enjoy his voice for metalcore. Like it just sounds really good. And the melodies that he sings sounds really good. For We Are Many actually has none of that, but it's still just a pretty baller fucking song. And then yeah, Not Alone would probably be my second favorite because Not Alone, I actually weirdly enough, I have you know how like your brain remembers weird shit?
Yeah, go
So
on.
my memory that I randomly remember was Christmas Day from I think 2008 because I think that's the year it came out. Playing Call of Duty World at War with Not Alone like blaring on my Xbox. And like ain't it just weird? Like I think it was 2008 because I think it was World of War, and that was the year World of War came out. Not Alone came out before that. I wasn't talking about Not Alone. That came out like 2006. But yeah, it's just kind of weird how your brain remembers random shit like that.
Yeah, it's funny how like a certain song or just band in general can take you back to just a random scenario or situation you're in.
Yeah, I know. It's very weird, but it's just like I don't think there was anything special about that day. I mean, it was Christmas. So I was like, I was hyped because it was Christmas and back then I was like still 13, so I was hype as shit for Christmas. But like there wasn't really anything special about that. Like I was just sitting in the basement playing Call of Duty. But yeah, that's all that remains and I want to talk about I think 3 more bands. Yeah, I want to talk about Killswitch Engage. I want to talk about Raunchy, and then I want to talk about a little band called Blessed by a Broken Heart that I know Ed doesn't like, but I'm going to talk about them.
Blessed by a broken heart. I know. Ho, ho.
I
Movie
actually
from
don't. We'll talk about them right now because I don't really have a whole lot to say on them. They were they were almost like Avenged Sevenfold in a way. Like, they didn't sound like Avenged Sevenfold, but they're almost like Avenged Sevenfold in a way that they came out the gate doing like metalcore, but then they kind of tried to do more of like a hair metal type thing, like how Avenged Sevenfold tried to do more like the Metallica, like almost like like Pantera side of metal. Well, I guess maybe not Pantera, but they just went more like on the metal side. Blessed by a Broken Heart tried to do it, but with hair metal. So their second album, their first album is like pure like deathcore. Their first album's kind of weird. But their second album, it was like a blend of like metalcore and hair metal, and it's pretty weird, but like I kind of dig it for how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, I mean, it says by glam metal and metalcore band,
Yeah,
Blessed by a Broken Heart.
yeah. In particular, I do enjoy the songs "She Wolf" and "Show Me What You've Got," and I do enjoy the pure hair metal jams "Move Your Body" and "To Be Young," both off of that
That's it.
album.
Oh
And,
god.
and then their third album, they tried to they kind of took it more like just hair metal. Like there wasn't really a whole lot of screaming on that album. And there wasn't really a whole lot of breakdowns. And there was a few songs that were just pure hair metal, like the song Forever. And it's kind of weird to me because like I see what they were trying to do, because like I said, I think they were trying to do like an Avenged Sevenfold thing, because Avenged Sevenfold came out the gate doing like pure metalcore, and then when that wasn't really working out for him, at least not on the level that like their later albums did, because I think they did make some waves in like 2003. Unholy Confessions was a hit for them, but when they switched over and put out like Beast and the Harlot, they just like exploded.
Yeah, they just came straight up, just like almost like hard rock at that point.
Yeah. And like, so I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to do like an Avenged Sevenfold type thing, but I mean, it just kind of doesn't work out when you're trying to put out a hair metal album in 2012. It's just not really going to work out.
Yeah, and I also enjoyed their stage names.
Oh, like Shred Sean.
And yeah, Frank the Bird.
I'm pretty sure their lead singer Tony Gambino actually is related to like a mobster from like the 20s.
Well, I mean, a name like Gambino, I mean, come on,
Well,
think
yeah,
about it.
with a name like Gambino, I know, but I'm saying like I remember looking it up, and I'm pretty sure he is actually related to a like yeah. Obviously, he's not a part of it, but he's like related to like the Gambino crime family of like the 20s and 30s or something like that. Well, yeah, so that's really not a whole lot I wanted to say on them. They're kind of more of the ridiculous, like I enjoy them like I enjoy new metal. Like it's ridiculous, but I get a kick out of it because it's ridiculous. It's not like, it's not like Nirvana where I'm just like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I'm
Well, once
pissing
again,
everybody off today.
too.
Now I'm about to have a bunch of sad boys in the comments.
Oh, they love that stuff.
Boy, yeah, so, and then next up, I'm going to talk about Killswitch Engage real quick. Because they're another one that I really enjoy. I remember my first exposure with them was it was either My Curse in Guitar Hero 3, or it was because I remember they did CM Punk's theme song before before it was called a Personality, which I think is his most popular theme song. But before that, in like the mid and late 2000s, his theme song was "This Fire Burns" by Killswitch Engage. And to this day, that's actually probably still one of my favorite Killswitch Engage songs. Like, nostalgia aside, it's just a good fucking song. And I know you said nostalgia can be a whore, and I do agree with that. But I do think when you already like something, like when you already like genuinely enjoy it, nostalgia could definitely bump it up to being something a little bit better, if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense because, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like obviously, like like Lit's Atomic, like nostalgia kind of let you down on that because it's just not very good.
I'm really
But,
happy I
like,
didn't tell anybody to buy that album because I was kind of like I think I was trying to convince you to buy it, but I'm really happy you didn't because I would have felt terrible. I probably would have to give money.
Yeah, I remember you saying you wanted to go around and be like George Clooney because apparently if you go up to George Clooney and you told him you spent money on Batman and Robin, he gives you $5. And I remember Ed was saying he was gonna do that with the people he recommended Litz Atomic to.
Yeah, because my bad about that. And there's nothing worse when you think something's so awesome and then you're showing it to somebody and then you're just sitting there just like
You're like, that's actually kind of trash.
I felt like I was like I remember I was like we're just chilling and we're like listening to it. I'm like, yeah, man, this album's like great, dude. And I'm just like sitting there. I was like,
Yeah, and it fakes you out too because the first song is actually pretty good. The Something to Someone song,
mm-hmm.
and then the second song is it's very early 2000s American Pie. I don't wanna be an asshole anymore.
All you have to hear is that line and think that
And then it's just kind of all downhill from there. Although I will say, Over My Head is actually probably my favorite Lit song, and that is off of Atomic.
that's the closing track.
And I do think that's a genuinely pretty good song, which, fun fact, that actually features Steven Tyler on it. I don't know if I said that before on the podcast. I know I told you, but I don't know if I said that before on the podcast. If I did, well, then you got that fun fact again. But we are getting a little off topic. What I was trying to say is, like, yeah, if something's bad, nostalgia will betray you. You will think something's good, then you listen to it, you're like, huh, nostalgia, you let me down. But if you actually genuinely like something, like This Fire Burns, nostalgia will elevate it. So where if I first heard it for the first time today, like, it would be solid. It would be an enjoyable song. But I think because it kind of gives me like memories of playing like SmackDown versus Raw when I was like 14, I'm like, fuck yeah, that song's banging. And that I think my favorite song from Killswitch Engage is probably their song In Due Time, which is actually off their first album with their new singer, which is actually their old singer. So because what they did was, I remember they had an original singer, Jesse. But then he left. I forget why he left originally, but then they got their most popular singer, Howard. And then he left in 2009, 2010. When I can't remember why he left. I think he was having like back problems. And it was kind of stopping him from touring and shit. But I don't know if that's it, because I know he definitely does still do music with like other bands. So I don't know if that was I might just be getting my facts mixed up. But I think he did have back problems, and that like had him leave a tour for a little bit. But I don't think that's why he left. Please, somebody in the comments fact check me. I forget why he left the band, but he did leave, and then Jesse came back. And then their first album with Jesse back was actually really fucking good. I haven't listened to anything after that one. But I remember their first album when Jesse came back was pretty good. I really like the songs In Due Time and No End in Sight off of that album. And then I also, obviously, I enjoyed This Fire Burns as a banger. I really like the song When Darkness Falls, which actually the first time I heard that song was the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack. Believe it or not, it was in the end credits. After El Nino. What else? I also, obviously, I like the song My Curse. My second favorite song by them is probably Starting Over off of their second self-titled album, because they have two. They have a self-titled album, which is their debut album from like 2000. Then they have a second self-titled album in 2009, which actually has some pretty good songs on it. It's a little bit lighter. Like it has a lot more clean singing on it than their other albums. But the song Starting Over is really, really good. I enjoy that one. And then my top three, if we're rounding it out and making a top three list, my third favorite song would probably be This Fire Burns. Just because, like I said, probably nostalgia for the most part. But it is also just a pretty good song.
Very nice.
Do you have anything to add on that?
No, not really, man. Not really, my man.
Okay. So before I talk about the last band I want to talk about, Ed, why don't you tell me a little bit about the Shikari Boys?
Yes, although Shikari is a very hard band to lump in because they're literally 30 million different genres, and to say they're metalcore is kind of do them a disservice because they're also like dubstep the standard generic post-hardcore, and now they sound like the Killers.
Well, although that is true, I definitely consider them metalcore because I think their most popular songs, which would be "Sorry You're Not a Winner" and "Mothership," I would definitely call them metalcore songs.
Yeah, metalcore, post-hardcore, yeah, for sure. But they're just so like out there now. But Enter Shikari, I love them. They're great. Uh, you have so many different eras, I guess you could say. Like when we were talking about Take to the Skies, that's just your generic kind of Warped Tour post-hardcore metalcore stuff with a slight bit of electronic keys because it was '07 and that's what was big back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, they did that shit before Attack Attack.
Yes, although in my opinion Shikari did it much better, but they were just I like their song the song Enter Shikari that and No Sweat is also a great song. And although it's not really a even though it's not even metalcore at all, they have a song called Johnny Sniper, which is like a pop punk electronic core song according to Wikipedia. That song's really catchy, but Shikari that I really want to talk about is the
The,
Reds album.
yeah, the album with Mothership. Or wait, no, Mothership's the same album as "Sorry You're Not a Winner."
Yeah, I think this guy's Common Dreads has Solidarity on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Solidarity. I don't know why. I just always think Mothership's on that album too.
Mothership's on the first album. It's track 3.
Yeah.
But the Shikari, man, they are something else. Like if like the song Solidarity has like this awesome opening guitar riff, then you just kick into like this like great. Well, first it opens up with like a synthesizer, then it kicks in with this awesome guitar, and it's just an awesome song. And I mean, I love Enter Shikari so much. Like I go on a kick with Shikari. Like there'll be like 2 weeks where I listen to nothing but Enter Shikari, and I won't listen for the rest of the year.
That's pretty much
But
how
I
I
guess
am with metalcore as a whole. There'll be like a solid 2 weeks. I'm like super into it, and then it'll be maybe like a month or two before I listen to it again.
yeah, and they pretty much followed up the same with a flash flood of color, which is just kind of common dreads, but just really insane. It was pretty much like electronic dubstep core. Like it was just like breakdowns, and it was really heavy on the synthesizer and bass drops. And if you want a more traditional, if you want a metalcore like heaviness with sort of screaming, you want a crazy electronic twist to it. A flash flood of color is definitely way to go. And then even the Minesweep, which was a pretty crazy album that they did, which is more post-hardcore and rocky-ish. It's definitely good. And then after that, I would say, unfortunately, they kind of started losing me there because they started becoming just more like rock, like killerish.
Yeah, I'm not a
Unfortunately,
fan of the Killers.
like their album The Spark, it's known as electronic rock, dance rock, electro pop, and grime. Ugh. And
Ugh.
their newest album, which came out in April, just known as alternative rock.
Yeah,
So
and like the lead single, if that's called like Tina or something.
Tina.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I respect them because they're definitely diverse, and there's definitely an album of Shikari that's like for everyone. So I
Yeah.
mean, or reinventing themselves and not just re-releasing, Take to the Skies and Common Dreads Part 5. So I just wanted to talk about them because if I have to pick like one metalcore like band that I'm like really truly a fan of, it was definitely the Shikari Boys, and they have one of the craziest live shows that I've ever been to. You don't know if you want to dance your butt off or if you want to punch a young child in the face.
Jesus.
Oh, hey man, that's just what they do to you, man. I mean, hear the songs. You know what I'm talking about, Killa.
Oh, I know. So we don't get political on this podcast, but I've always said if I was ever the president and I had to like nuke somewhere, I would make sure that like Mothership was playing on like the loudspeakers as like the nukes were coming out of the silos, because it's just such an ominous sounding song. Like that little, the open like. I would make sure that was playing over like the White House loudspeakers.
Just to let people know that something bad is happening.
Exactly, let you know, like, yo, somebody somewhere fucked up, and we got to set things right.
Yeah, but they're something a bit
Ridiculous.
more experimental. Shikari is definitely up their alley if anybody's listening to this.
Yeah, and you know what? That actually does remind me of one extra band I wanted to talk about. Because I remember I've always seen, because I used to be really into Horse the Band back in the day. And they're kind of like the same, like weird. They have a lot of synth, but they, instead of like doing like the EDM thing, they programmed their synth to kind of sound like an 8-bit, like Nintendo type sound. Um, and their shit's just really fucking weird. And people always used to compare them to Enter Shikari. For the most part, I don't really see the comparison. But I will say, Sorry You're Not a Winner, I definitely can see the comparison a little bit. But I don't really see the comparison. But I just wanted to bring them up real quick because they're another metalcore band that I enjoy quite a bit. I don't really listen to them as much now. They're not really on the same level as like As I Lay Dying or like Killswitch Engage or something like that. But I remember I still enjoy it. In particular, I do like the song. I like the song Shapeshift. It's either Shapeshift or Shapeshifter. And I do enjoy the song Birdo. Both bangers. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. I'm just saying, but I mean, Horse the Band, their genres on Wikipedia is metalcore, Nintendo core, punk rock, and digital hardcore.
Yeah, so that punk rock is actually their first album. Their very first album was sounded like No FX, and it honestly wasn't that great. I'm gonna be honest. Really wasn't that great. They really came into their own on their second album. That's when they got their current lead singer. I think somebody, if anybody knows this in the comments, let me know. I'm pretty sure on their first album they had a different singer, but it kind of sounds to me like it could be Nathan, who sings on all their other albums. Like, it sounds to me like it kind of could have been, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading that it was a different guy on album one. So if somebody can confirm that for me, I would appreciate it.
What album? Speaking of, A Secret Rhythm of the
Yeah,
Universe.
that's their first album, and it just sounds like No FX.
They
But the
have
only
Adam Crook, and yeah, they have Adam Crook on it.
okay, all right, fair enough. But yeah, so that's the one. It just sounds like No FX, but it sounds like a really low quality garagey No FX. And I mean, I don't even really like No FX, like actual No FX, so I really don't want to hear like a low quality garagey version of it.
Yeah, it's just not a good sign.
Yeah, but they realized that shit was awful. They ditched it with album two, and then they really, to quote Patrick Bateman, they really came into their own commercially and artistically.
I love saying that about bands.
Kutzman has probably one of my favorite breakdowns in like the entire genre. And another breakdown I really like, but I'm not going to talk about them because they're not a metalcore band. But I also really like the breakdown in White Knuckles by Five Finger Death Punch. But they're really not a metalcore. Their first album kind of teeters it a little bit. Like, I don't think Wikipedia lists it as metalcore, but like I definitely hear it on some of their songs. But they're definitely not a metalcore band, so we're not going to be talking about them. But I do like the breakdown of White Knuckles. That might be one of my favorite breakdowns like ever. But the breakdown in Kutzman by Horse the Band is definitely like top 3 for me. I don't know why, because it's like open note chugs and they're just screaming cut. There's really nothing that sets it apart from the rest of like the breakdowns that I've listened to, but it's just, I don't know, that shit just hits different, man. It just hits different. So that's I think that's all I really wanted to say about Horse the Band. And once again, I am so sorry for cutting you off. Please continue what you were saying about Enter Shikari.
Well, I mean, I pretty much went off on the note that I wanted to, that they pretty much have everything for everyone. And The band is just so unique that I don't really think there's anything like them out there, at least with their Common Dreads, Flash Flood of Color, and Minesweeper era, because
Yeah,
their first album, Take the Skies, is just kind of something you expect to hear at Warped Tour in the mid 2000s, and their last two albums are more just British radio rock.
yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, a lot of the songs off their middle third, second, third, and four albums are just some of the craziest, most insane stuff I've ever listened to.
Yeah, it's really unique and really crazy.
And like I just go on like a 2 week kick where it's all the only thing I can listen to, and then I won't listen to it for another 50 weeks of the year because it does get pretty,
Yeah,
if it's all
I think that's definitely a problem with metalcore as a whole. Is it's a lot of it is pretty samey. That's why I think I do like the more unique bands like Atreyu and Enter Shikari and like Horus the Band is because they definitely do something pretty different. And that's why I was saying before is because I only, with a few exceptions, I only really like the entry level stuff. Like As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage and like old school Avenged Sevenfold, All That Remains because again, like it's just kind of a very samey sounding genre. So the bands that got really popular are just kind of like the bands that did it the best. You know what I'm saying?
I did the best or did it first.
Yeah. So they're like, if I'm listening to As I Lay Dying, right? Like there's not much of a reason for me to go like a whole lot deeper because I'm gonna get a lot of bands that sound like As I Lay Dying, but just maybe don't do it as good. You know what I mean?
Or just something you already heard before, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. And maybe, maybe I'm wrong. If anybody wants to, show me some good like metalcore in the comments, by all means. Cause I don't consider myself closed minded. I'd be open to checking stuff out. Just a lot of the stuff that I have heard that isn't like, like a big entry level type band. Just kind of sounds like, like a band that tried to be As I Lay Dying or tried to be Killswitch Engage or tried to be like All That Remains and just didn't do it as good. And that's why they didn't get as popular.
yeah. I mean, you see that that's like every genre,
I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but I feel like you get it a lot with metalcore because metalcore is pretty formulaic because like it does have like 90% of it does have that like screamed verses, clean choruses, like vocal structure. A lot of them do have breakdowns. A lot of them have like kind of thrashy riffs during the verses, and then like the big sounding choruses, and then like maybe like a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and again, if anybody wants to try and change my mind on that, I'm open to it. I'm not like that asshole, like, nah, sucks, not gonna listen to it. I'm open to it. So if anybody in the comments has good metalcore recommendations, let me know. I'm open to it. And again, like I said, I listen to a few more like obscure bands because actually the next band I want to talk about is kind of obscure, and they also definitely do something kind of different because the next band I want to talk about is a band called Raunchy. I heard these guys because I remember their name just really intrigued me because their name is raunchy. And that's a word that I used to use all the fucking time. So when I saw that there was a metalcore band called Raunchy, I had to check them out. And
Man, I didn't realize they're that old.
their fourth album is called like Wasteland Discotheque. It's actually probably my favorite metalcore release. Not counting
Really?
Atreyu. Not counting Atreyu. Probably my overall favorite metalcore release because it's just, I mean, a little bit of it's probably nostalgic because I listened to it like when it was like probably their newest album, and it's good. I mean they're from I think Sweden or Scandinavia, somewhere over in that general region. So it has like kind of that sound to it, but it's still like also pretty metalcore-y. And their choruses, like I said, I think my favorite thing in the genre is the clean choruses. And their choruses are just fucking stellar, in my opinion. My favorite song by them is a song called A Heavy Burden. I think actually one of the reasons why I kind of like started to learn guitar a little bit was I wanted to learn how to play that riff. I never learned it. I kind of plateaued, But I remember that was like a reason why I wanted to start playing guitar, so I could play the riff to A Heavy Burden. And the clean chorus in that is just, I really fucking like it. The breakdown is cool. Breakdown's got a little bit of like, kind of like, I don't want to say synth, but I think it is synth, kind of. Because
Yeah, maybe.
their
But
clean vocalist is also their keyboardist, so they do
mhm.
have keyboards in their songs.
Yeah, Jep Christensen is that guy, the keyboardist.
Yeah, I remember on like album 6. I remember hearing that they were getting a new vocalist, and I was so scared because I didn't know like who they were talking about. If they were talking about Jep or their screamer, who I forget his name right now, but it's something.
Jesper,
Yeah,
Jesper
Jesper. That's it. Yeah, Jesper. I wasn't sure if it was Jesper or Jep. And like no disrespect to Jesper. Jesper's also really, really good, but I'm like so glad that it wasn't Jep because I fucking love his voice.
Yeah, it's funny that they have all of their former members were just vocalists.
Yeah, I remember their original Lars is actually featured on A Heavy Burden.
Yeah, because I was just looking that up. They had Lars Vongstrup, then you had Casper Thompson, and now it's Mike
Oh,
Semsky.
Casper. That's why I said Jesper. My apologies, Casper.
Jesper, the guitarist and the
Wait,
bassist. There
yeah,
are two Jespers in the band. I guess that's just the John of Denmark.
apparently.
We
But
got
yeah, so I
Jesper.
might be mixing up their names a little bit, but yeah. Although I wouldn't call them my favorite, like I said, I probably wouldn't even put them in my top 3 for favorite metalcore. Their 2008 album, Wasteland Discotheque. Favorite release in the genre, not counting Atreyu, because like I said, Atreyu, I kind of don't really lump them in with. I see them more as like, like a mall emo band with screaming and breakdowns. So,
Yes, yes, yes.
with holding Atreyu, yeah, my favorite metalcore release. 100%. If we are counting Atreyu, then my favorite release would probably be The Curse.
Okay, okay. Well, that's a pretty good, I guess, obscure hidden gem for some people.
Yeah, it's if we have any metalcore fans that are watching, if you haven't heard Raunchy, you should definitely check them out. I can't vouch for all their stuff. I actually kinda don't really know a whole lot outside of Wasteland Discotheque, and I know their song Night Party off of their next album, which I think is called Discord Electric. I know that's
Yes,
either their third album or their fifth album.
fifth to be exact.
Fifth. All right, so I don't really know much off that album, but I do know the song Night Party. And Night Party is actually one of my favorites too. I kind of purposely haven't really listened to a whole lot else by them because that's just how good that I think Wasteland Discotheque is. Is like I don't want to kind of like ruin them a little bit for me if their newer stuff maybe isn't that good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of purposely haven't listened to them. But so I can't vouch for all their albums, but in particular their fourth and fifth album, if you like metalcore and you haven't heard them, I recommend them. They're good. Very good albums. Well, their fourth album is at least, but their fifth album, like I said, I do enjoy the song Night Party. And yeah, so that's like I said, so I don't only listen to the entry level stuff. Just like I said, the entry level stuff is mostly what I listen to because a lot of metalcore does sound pretty samey to me. So just kind of stick with, like what I know is good. Well, yeah, but I do know a few obscure bands like, like Horse the Band, Raunchy, Blessed by a Broken Heart. Um, what else? What else do I know that's kind of obscure? I think that actually might be it, because like I said, I don't listen to enough metalcore to do like a whole podcast. Like this ain't the metalcore podcast; this is the pop punk podcast. But I felt like I knew enough that I wanted to do an episode on it.
Yeah, and you've been listening to it a lot lately, so it only
And
makes
I,
sense.
I have been. And honestly, funny enough, that I've been kind of getting back into it a little bit since we were doing the episode today. Like I was like I was back into like listening to like These Hearts and shit. And then once I saw we were going to be doing a metalcore episode today, after all, I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling like as I lay dying today, I'm kind of feeling like betrayal. So So before we go, I definitely, because I remember you did say that you listened to the essentials from the bands that I sent, which I sent him basically all the bands I talked about today, minus Horse the Band, because Horse the Band I talked about because we were talking about Enter Shikori, and
Yeah, I mean,
those two frequently get compared.
just as a disclaimer, just because something is not my preferred genre doesn't mean that I dislike the band. It's just not my cup of tea per se. Because I have listened to a lot of these bands in the past. Because when I was listening to pop punk, a lot of my friends were listening to metalcore and other genres and other like post hardcore. That's what was big in like 05, 06, 07.
Yeah.
So I mean, as I lay dying, I mean, it's hard for me to explain because I forget what song I was listening to. I think it was like, let me look up what I was listening to again through them on my Spotify
Oh,
before I,
yeah. Real quick, while he looks that up, because I don't think I told you guys my top three As I Lay Dying songs. And I don't think I told you my top three Atreyu songs either. So I'm going to go through them real quick. So my top three for Atreyu would be obviously the Crimson, and then Right Side of the Bed, and then probably My Fork in the Road, Your Knife and My Back. My top three for As I Lay Dying would be Defender, and then probably 94 Hours, and then probably This Is Who We Are. Did I go through my top three for Event Sevenfold as well? I don't remember if I did.
I don't think you did.
I remember Reminiscence is my top song. Then my second favorite would probably be Chapter 4. Then my third favorite would probably be Streets off of their first album.
How do you feel about like this post metalcore A7X anyway?
Well, I enjoy City of Evil, and I do enjoy their self-titled album. Like I said, everything with the Rev, I generally enjoy. After the Rev, that's when they kind of really doubled down on the we like Metallica shtick.
Hmm.
So after that, it kind of, like I said, I don't want to say they fall off because they do have some good songs after the Rev unfortunately passed away. Like I do like the stage, like the title track, and I like the songs that they put out for Call of Duty. Like
For Call of Duty.
yeah, like well, they have a bunch of songs in Call of Duty. The song "Carry On" I enjoy. I enjoy the song "Not Ready to Die." Um, and I don't know if I heard the others. I remember they did a whole EP of just songs that they made for Call of Duty, but I don't think I heard
Really?
the other ones. But I do enjoy "Carry On" and I do enjoy "Not Ready to Die." Um, but yes, I don't want to say they fell off. They just been hit or miss. Like the Rev was like the main songwriter for the band. You can definitely tell.
I never
Um,
knew that. How about that?
yeah, yeah. They in particular they do a lot for Black Ops. Like they don't really do a whole lot for like Modern Warfare, which kind of sucks because Modern Warfare is my favorite. But I mean Black Ops is still cool. Just Modern Warfare is my favorite. I was a Modern Warfare kid all the way. 1, 2, and 3, and the new one's really fucking good too. I'm gonna actually probably play that when the podcast is done because today's a day off.
That's my man. Yeah,
Uh,
unfortunately, got work and a doctor's appointment soon, so
I feel that. I feel that, sir. And then wait, did I do my top three for All That Remains? I don't think I did my top three for All That Remains either. I mean, I know I talked about my top two, which would be For We Are Many and then Not Alone. And if we're making it a top three, ooh, that's gonna be tough. Cause there's a few songs that would probably take the number three spot. I love the song This Calling. This Calling's probably the number one contender. And I also really like the song Six. And I also like the song No Knock, which is actually a later song. That song's like 2015. I, I think I'll give the
yeah.
edge to This Calling, just because This Calling, that was part of the Rock Band pack, which is where I first heard them. And as I said before, although nostalgia can't save a song that you don't like, nostalgia can definitely elevate a song that you do like.
Yes, for sure, absolutely.
Okay, but anyway, um, go ahead, sir.
the song that I listened to by As I Lay Dying was My Own Grave.
Uh huh.
And I could definitely see why, and just all these songs in general, because I also the song I listened to by All That Remains was 2 weeks,
Two
and I
weeks
can
is
definitely.
cool.
I mean, I just went on Spotify and just saw what the most popular songs were because I feel like that was the quote unquote essentials per
Mm-hmm.
se. Uh, but I can definitely see why like people take creatine and work out to this stuff because I can definitely like, especially the As I Lay Dying song. It was just like heavy and like ballsy and it was like really cool. I actually really enjoyed that song. The All That Remains, it was all right to me. I mean, it wasn't definitely something that I would put on myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. As I Lay Dying's kind of weird too, because or not As I Lay Dying. All That Remains, I meant to say. They're weird, like not in a bad way. It's kind of unique. Up until like their most recent albums, like they've stayed metalcore, but they've definitely incorporated more singing without changing up their genre. Like 2 weeks is definitely a metalcore song, but there's not any screaming in the song at all, except for maybe probably like in the background, just like turned way down. But singing's at the forefront in that song, but it is a metalcore song. Like usually when a band like ditches the screaming, they completely change their sound. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, All That Remains did eventually do that. But yeah, like 2008, 2010, and I think their 2012 albums managed to stay metalcore while also singing.
yeah. So I mean, I can definitely see the appeal to it. I can definitely see the whole UFC and workout crowd also loves it because it just sounds like it's just in a whole bunch. I think I just hear all these songs in UFC, and they're the typically tend to be the rock songs in the Madden games too.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah, Madden one year had well, all right, just like a bunch of the heavy songs I've heard over the years. It had like Gaia Bleeds by Set Your Goals, Reckoning by Killswitch Engage, The Mirror's Truth by In Flames, Wolves at the Door by Census Bale, which is probably one of their heavier songs. That has a bunch of heavy songs in it.
Yeah, no, because Batman '04 is the one that had that that Avenged Sevenfold song.
Yeah,
Uh,
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4, yeah.
And
That's when I
that's
first started.
before that's before just going pure metal was even a thought in their heads.
Yeah, they're on Mad in '04.
Yeah.
NHL '04.
Yeah. And yeah, it's always really NHL. They have like probably they have very rock oriented soundtracks. Like I remember one year they had like Coheed. What else did they have? They had Bullet for My Valentine.
Enter
They
Shikari, that's when I first heard Enter Shikari was NHL '07.
yeah, Enter Shikari.
NHL '06 had Goodnight Nurse. NHL '07 also had Bayside. NHL '02 was essentially just Gob and Treble Charger and Sum 41. '03 had like Jimmy Eat World and also Gob. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So go on. So you said you enjoyed the As I Lay Dying song, "My Own Grave." 2 weeks, but
Yeah,
all that remains not so much.
and the Kill Switch Engage songs I listen to, I don't really care for the voice too much of the guy.
Okay.
I
Which
listen to
song?
Holy Diver.
Okay, yeah. Well, Holy Diver. That's actually a cover of an old metal song. So I could
Probably make
definitely, yeah. I enjoy it, but I could see why somebody wouldn't.
the song My Curse.
Okay, so you listen to some Howard songs.
I just listened to literally just what was the most popular songs they got,
Yeah.
just so I can get a full taste of what people listen to and like about these bands.
No, I got you. Okay, so
Mhm.
yeah, so you're not too crazy about the voice. That makes sense.
I mean, I don't. I like. I'd rather have pure screaming than singing in my metalcore. I guess you could say that's all I really got.
Yeah, and that's definitely I think that's another problem with a bunch of metalcore bands is a lot of them they ditch the screaming, but they'll also just ditch the metalcore.
Yeah,
And they don't always do it good. Like With Avenged Sevenfold, it works because the songs are still good, just from like a songwriting standpoint. But a lot of these bands, like they'll ditch the screaming, and then they'll just go pure. They'll go pure like just rock, and it just does not work. But that makes sense. So yeah, like Holy Diver, that's a cover of a Dio song.
Oh, Dio, very nice. I
It's
like Dio.
a cover of a Dio song from the 80s, which actually, fun fact, the original song Holy Diver has Vivian Campbell on the guitar. Vivian Campbell would go on to actually play guitar for one of my favorite bands, Def Leppard.
How about that?
That's it's a little fun fact for you. And yeah, what else? Yeah, my favorite. Well, I already went through my top three. I already went through my top three Killswitch songs, so we don't need to rehash that. Um. All right, so yeah, so basically, so the consensus is you enjoyed My Own Grave by As I Lay Down, which is a pretty good song, I must admit. Didn't really like 2 weeks. It's understandable, and you didn't really like the voice for Killswitch Engage. And yeah, and you also heard a cover.
Yeah,
That
well, I also enjoy Dio because for obvious reasons.
well, yeah. um. So yeah, so that's that. Um. So for those that don't know, Ed actually messaged me that he's going to get his charger. So real quick, while he does that, I'm just gonna talk about real quick some I guess relation between metalcore and pop punk, because it's always been in the same scene. I've never quite understood why, because As I Lay Dying is wildly different than like Blink 182. But I definitely can see there's some things that kind of make sense. Like there's easycore, which is, pop punk with breakdowns and like the occasional screaming. And then there's post hardcore, which is just a broad, like, blanket term for anything that ranges from basically pop punk to basically metalcore. And it's essentially Census Fail's entire discography, because they've had songs that are basically pop punk and songs that are basically metalcore.
Yeah, and Silverstein and Boys Night Out, and they're all post-hardcore bands.
And they're both pretty different from each other. Now, I haven't really heard a whole lot from Boys Night Out, but the song that I have heard, the one where it's like the Adam Sandler quote, is like the name
Yeah,
of
punch
the
in the face, reminding I got punched in the face.
punch in the
Yeah,
nose for sticking my face in other
yeah,
people's business. Yes.
yes, great.
Yeah, that song sounds pretty pop punk to me. And that's a little bit of a difference from I Am the Arsonist by Silverstein.
Yes, but such a broad term, post-hardcore is. I can go from heavy screaming to just whiny lyrics of a mall emo sound.
Yeah, pretty much. Silverstein even had like Giving Up as basically a pop punk song, and then the previously mentioned I Am the Arsonist is pretty much metalcore. Alright, so you got your charger?
Yeah, everything's good.
Alright, cool. So yeah. So what else did you listen to of the metalcore variety?
I mean, I just try to listen to at least a couple songs from each band. Um, I already know Horse the band, so I mean, I just think they're kind of more fun than anything.
Yeah, they're definitely unique.
Yeah, I mean, just Cuts Man, Mega Man and everything. So I just enjoyed that just because it's Mega Man and it's just more fun with just all the bit keyboard sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I already knew like a lot of the not a lot, but I knew enough of A7X to kind of think to myself like definitely enjoy them more than All That Remains and Kill Switch. Maybe
Yeah.
because I knew those songs when I was like younger, so maybe they're a bit more fonder memory of them, nostalgia. And I gotta check out Raunchy. I forgot to check them out because I didn't see your text about that.
Well, Raunchy definitely has some bangers.
I gotta
Uh,
check out Raunchy just because how glowing of a review you gave Disco Land.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even. I don't even think I went through my top three for raunchy. So my top three for raunchy would be A Heavy Burden, and then number two would be probably The Bash, and then number three would probably be Night Party. Is my top three for raunchy.
Very nice, man.
So
Very nice.
So yeah. So I guess unless you have anything else to add.
Ah, man. I mean, I definitely is probably the most metalcore I listened to in my life since 2007. So I mean, it's kind of cool just to kind of
Yeah,
go
I
back
know.
to a genre
And
and kind of start anew.
yeah, metalcore for me, it's a nice trip down memory lane because I used to listen to metalcore a lot in like 2007 to like 2010. I listened to a lot of metalcore, so it's a nice little. Whenever I get on a heavy kick, it's a nice little like nostalgic trip.
Yeah, and I guess if you want to work out, I mean,
Well, hey, if you want to work out, just put on As I Lay Dying's Greatest Hits.
exactly. Or Austrian Death Machine if you really want to get the body of Arnold in you.
One more rap.
I mean that he's literally screaming at you to do one more rep. I mean, how can you not work out to that?
So yeah, this was definitely a very fun episode for me because
Yeah,
it's a nice
nice change of
little
pace.
yeah, nice change of pace, nice little trip down memory lane. Talking about songs that I mean, I've listened to most of these songs pretty recently, but a good majority, like a lot of these songs, I haven't heard in like a while. Um, yeah, that was the metalcore episode. So, thank you everybody for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Like I said, we're not going to be streaming on Twitch anymore, but we will be having these podcast episodes out every single Tuesday at noon. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next Tuesday. Peace.
Bye bye.